Hey, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about Mark Manson's generation-defining self-help guide, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So, let's get into it. Today, I've picked 7 key points in the book that I thought was probably a good summary or a good overview of everything that he covers in this book. Number 1, the first is the feedback loop from hell. Now, our brain, it has this insidious quirk, and Mark says it will drive you batty if you let it. Chances are you've probably experienced it. Let's say you're anxious about meeting someone or confronting someone. Now that anxiety is causing more anxiety. And then you start thinking, why am I so anxious? And oh no, even more anxiety. And then quick, where's my bad habit that lets me not be anxious? Like drinking or smoking. Or let's say you have anger issues and you're pissed off at the stupidest things and you don't know why. And the fact that you get pissed off so easily starts to piss you off even more. And before you know it, in your petty rage, you realize being angry all the time makes you a shallow and mean person. And that makes you want to feel like you want to hit something. Well, fuck you, here, have a fist. Bam. Rage. Welcome to the feedback loop from hell. Maybe you've done it. Most people probably have engaged in it. And it is an endless cycle of bad thoughts, fueled by bad thoughts, driving you to the point where you do not want to find yourself. Don't worry, it's part of the beauty of being human. But very few animals have the ability to think cogent thoughts to begin with. And we are one of them. But here's the problem. Us humans, through consumer culture and, hey look, my life is cooler than your life, social media, has bred a whole bunch of people who think it is totally not okay to feel negative thoughts. Anger, anxiety, sadness, fear, guilt, etc. All these negative emotions. I mean, look at Facebook. They're having a grand old time. 8 people got married. Some 17-year-old kid got a Lamborghini for her birthday. And some kid invented a $2 billion company that delivers toilet paper when you run out. Okay, maybe that last one's a bit of a stretch, but you get the idea. And meanwhile, you're stuck at home, picking cat shit out of your litter box. You can't help but think your life sucks so much more than everyone else's. The feedback loop from hell has become a borderline epidemic, as Mark Manson puts it, making so many of us feel stressed, overly neurotic, and overly self-loathing. Back in your grandfather's time, he would think, gee whiz, I feel awful today. Oh well, back to shoveling hay. But now, if you feel bad for even 5 minutes, you're bombarded with 350 images of people doing much better than you. And it's impossible to not feel worse from there. So, we get angry at the fact that we get angry. What is wrong with me? Mark says this is why not giving a fuck is key. That is why it's going to save the world. And it's going to save the world because you'll accept the fact that the world is totally fucked. But that's alright, because it's always been that way, and it always will be. By not giving a fuck that you feel bad, you short-circuit the feedback loop from hell. You say, I feel bad, but who gives a fuck? And then, as if sprinkled by magic fuck-giving fairy dust, you stop hating yourself for feeling so bad. Right, that's the feedback loop from hell. Now, let's talk about shitty values and why they suck. Mark says there are a handful of these that make poor problems for people. Problems that can hardly be solved. So, let's go over them a few. Let's go over them a few quickly. Number 1, pleasure. Pleasure is great, but it's a horrible value to prioritize your life around. Ask any drug addict how his pursuit of pleasure is going. Pleasure is a false god. Research shows people who focus their energy on superficial pleasures end up emotionally unstable and therefore more depressed. Pleasure is the most superficial form of life satisfaction and therefore the easiest to obtain and the easiest to lose. Number 2, material success. Many people measure their self-worth based on how much money they have or what car they drive, and if their grass is greener than their neighbor's if their grass is greener than their neighbor's house is. And if their grass is greener than their neighbor's, etc. All these things that you base your success on. Research shows that once one is able to provide for basic physical needs, which is food, water, shelter, that's pretty much all you need to live, the correlation between happiness and worldly success quickly becomes zero. So if you're starving on the streets in India, an extra $10,000 every year would affect your happiness a lot. But if you're sitting comfortably in the middle class in a developed country, then the amount wouldn't really affect your happiness a lot. And it basically means you killing yourself overtime and working weekends, right? The other issue with this is prioritizing it over all other values, such as honesty, compassion, nonviolence, etc. When one measures themselves not by behavior, but by the status symbols they've collected, they are not only being shallow, but they are probably being assholes too. Number 3, and this is actually something I found very interesting, always being right. Our brains are inefficient machines. We constantly make poor assumptions, give in to cognitive biases, misjudge probabilities, misremember facts, etc. As humans, we're pretty much wrong constantly. So if your metric for life is to be right, well, you're going to have a difficult time rationalizing all of the bullshit to yourself. The fact is, people that base their self-worth on being right all the time prevent themselves from learning from their mistakes. They lack the ability to take on new perspectives and emphasize with others. They close themselves off to new and important information. Number 4, this is the last one, staying positive. Then there are those who measure themselves by being positive no matter what. Lost your job? Great, explore your passions. Child died of throat cancer? Awesome, you don't have to pay for college tuition anymore. While there is something to be said about staying on the sunny side of life, the truth is sometimes life sucks, and the healthiest thing you can do is admit it. Denying negative emotions lead to deeper and more prolonged emotions and to emotional dysfunction. Constant positivity is a form of avoidance, not only Constant positivity is a form of avoidance, not a valid solution to life's problems, which, if you chose the right values and metrics, should be motivating you. It's simple, really. Things go wrong, people upset us, accidents happen. These things make us feel like shit, but it's fine. Negative emotions are an essential component of emotional health. To deny negativity is to perpetuate problems instead of solving them. By the way, what even defines a good and bad value? Well, good values are 1, reality-based, 2, socially constructive, and 3, immediate and controllable. Bad values are 1, superstitious, 2, socially destructive, and 3, not immediate or controllable. Examples: honesty is a good value because you have control over it, it reflects reality, and benefits others, even if it's something they don't want to hear at that time. Popularity, on the other hand, is a bad value because it's not controllable. If your metric is to be the most popular person at a dance party, let's say, you probably don't know everyone that will show up. Chances are you don't know half the people that will show up. The value/metric isn't based on reality. You may feel like the most popular or unpopular person there, yet it's pretty unmeasurable since you don't know and can't control what other people think of you. Moving on, I thought I would share a paragraph from the book, and there's a simple realization from which all personal improvement and growth emerges. This is the realization that we, individually, are responsible for everything in our lives, no matter the existential circumstance. And this can be explained by a simple bit of information. We may not have total control of what happens to us, but we can control our reaction, and how we interpret things. So, this is the do something principle. In 2008, Mark quit his job to try and start up a blog because he realized and remembered something from his high school that his teacher had told him. Don't just sit there, do something, and the answers will follow. Now, of course, he was talking about math problems, but this is literally life advice. If you don't know where to start, don't just give up or say, I'll do it later, or move on to the next one, the next easier thing. Start somewhere and the answers will follow. Action isn't just the effect of motivation, it's also the cause of it. Most of us commit to action only when we feel a certain level of motivation. We think it's a loop that goes like this. Emotional inspiration leads to motivation, leads to desirable action. If you want to do something, but don't have the motivation, most people just think they're screwed. But, however, this is not just a 3-part loop. It's an endless loop, endless chain. And your actions can create further motivation, which can boost inspiration. Taking advantage of our mindset in the following way, we can use the knowledge to reorient our brain to instead function like this. Action leads to motivation, which leads to inspiration, which leads to more action, which leads to more motivation, more inspiration, endless loop. So it's also its own endless loop and needs to be taken advantage of. It's just sitting there waiting for you to say, I'm going to try this, and then we'll see how it goes, right? If you lack the motivation to make an important change in your life, do something, literally anything. Then harness the inspiration you get from it. If you need inspiration, here's a quote. Depth is where gold is buried, and you have to stay committed to something to dig it up. That's true in relationships, career, training, building a great lifestyle, everything. And I know I touched on this earlier, but I'll leave you with a bit Mark talks about from The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker. Humans are the only animals that can conceptualize our thoughts. Dogs don't sit around and worry about the career. Cats don't worry about past mistakes. Cats don't worry about past mistakes and wonder what would have happened if they did something different. Fish don't care about getting fin enlargements, no matter how much better it would make them look, and they literally can't. So don't start spiraling through the feedback loop from hell. I'm telling you this so you acknowledge it and can be a better person, not to make you feel bad. And that's all. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, and don't forget to check out my free Notion template. I'll link it below. See you in the next one.